So my name is Nick Judge. I am a political economist. I focus primarily on currency markets in my dissertation, mathematical models that were used there. I then worked in big data for a while, and in getting into cryptocurrencies about a year and a half ago, we had the ideas for RootProject, and that quickly took over all of our lives. It was a very organic conversation with a psychologist that specializes in poverty, and my co-founder, Chris, and myself, and we just came up with the idea, started talking to other people about it, and just decided to drop everything and do that. I think we all did in that first conversation. And we had a few other names and they were taken. So then we went with RootProject. Yeah. It's definitely been the most transformative year of my life, I'd say. I now have friends from every crypto capital that's out there. And it's been a real adventure. The reaction to RootProject has been, I think, really positive. And we've gotten some of the best names in crypto on our team. We have Tom Graham, who, along with Alex Yamashita, and they're two of the four partners in TLDR, which has played a pivotal role in marketing and starting a number of the biggest projects from 2017. Most recently, they structured the ICO of QuantStamp, which obviously, I think, 10x'd and did extremely well. Likewise, we have Chris Meese, who used to be the CFO of 10x when they did the largest Asian ICO in history. He's likewise not just an advisor, but a real friend. We're really lucky to get people who have experience not just in crypto, but in the particular format of an ICO that's not just a money grab, but is really designed to create a global coalition and have demand for the token greatly outstrip supply. So another good example of that was Gifto, another great ICO recently with really positive price action. Iconic, Chris's ICO advisory firm was instrumental in that. I can keep going listing some of the biggest ICOs and the most successful ICOs. We were all here, many of us, initially for the Icon event, and TLDR was very early backers of Icon and real advisors there and everything. So it's some of the best names in crypto, and it's this crowd of people that truly understand how you have to build a global coalition, and how it's really not centered in the West at all, which is, I think, easy for Koreans and for Chinese people and Japanese people to understand because they see the market for what it is. But a lot of people in the West are used to San Francisco being the center of the universe when it comes to tech, right? Building that bridge between those two worlds is important, and it's been a real adventure and a lot of fun. So nonprofits, like you say, by definition, they have one central pain point, right? And that's how to sustainably raise money for the projects they want to pursue. And so you can look back over 40, 50 years of literature, say Nonprofit Quarterly and other industry publications, where they are looking at financial innovation in the private sector and trying to come up with a way to fund projects that's a little bit like selling equity in a project. There have been some successes around the margins, but in general, they've failed. And they've failed for two reasons. One, if you want to create an exotic derivative to finance a nonprofit but give an investor a little bit of return, that might cost you $200,000-$300,000 in lawyer bills. And that big startup cost means that you then don't have a liquid secondary market. And so you have a massive industry. This is the third largest industry by employment in the United States of America. This isn't a small thing. And they have been driving the central question for 40, 50 years of how to change has been one of how do we embrace financial innovation but still be a nonprofit. The problems that I just outlined, expensive startup costs and lack of liquid markets, crypto gets rid of that completely. What used to cost $200,000 costs you maybe the salary of a programmer for 4 or 5 hours, or even less than that if you use the Waves platform or something. And so now we're in this totally new world where you can use a crypto asset to correlate its value with the institutional size and efficacy of a nonprofit institution. And RootProject is the first project that has really recognized that and said, yes, we can use crypto to put the full power of markets and investors behind nonprofits. If we pull that off, that's not a little thing. There's a lot of good plays in crypto right now in regards to, say, nonprofit transparency. Right. And that's nice. And maybe you increase efficiency 10%. Or maybe some projects get funded that otherwise wouldn't. But what RootProject is working on is a foundational change where the pursuit of profit can have the same power of markets and investors as the pursuit of social good. And I think that if we level those two things out as a society, A, that's a massive market that would lead to a lot of token appreciation. B, that's really transforming a lot of what I think everybody here knows in their hearts is wrong with society today. No. We've been through this before with the pre-ICO during BIP 148, and we were able to weather the storm. What we have seen with RootProject is such a massive growth in interest. We really held back on a lot of our announcements until after the new year. We had a theory of how do you break through a world of hundreds of ICOs. And so in the past several weeks, we've announced TLDR as advisors. We've announced Chris Meese as an advisor. Consensus asked us to be a member of their Blockchain for Social Impact Coalition. Obviously, they bring a massive network. They're by far the largest organization in crypto. Nothing's close to them. And so that's just one example of a number of important teams that are coming on board and offering validation. We have an ICO that's only $13 million total and only a $4 million hard cap in the public sale. And so we're already heavily oversubscribed for that. So we have to impose an investor hard cap on that. Again, it's not about doing a cash grab like, say, Bancor or something like that. It's about having an ICO where the supply of the token is greatly outstripped by demand. So yes, the fall in Ether in the past several days, today in particular, has been pretty brutal. It doesn't help anything, but it's something that maybe reduces demand for our ICO by, say, 20-25%. And we've noticed maybe a 600-700% increase in demand as measured by people signing up for the whitelist or people reserving a spot on the ICO previous to that. So before we had even started publicly advertising, which is only starting this week, we were already about 25 times oversubscribed for the ICO. I think it's one of the most advanced, for sure. I think you saw that in the disjunction between the Justice Ministry and the Office of the President and how they were announcing the Justice Ministry was a little bit more aggressive, and maybe the reins were put in by the Office of the President. And so I think that you see a level of popular support that very much comes from Korea being one of the international tech centers, but did not have a large access to venture capital. That much of it was very large firm growth, Samsung and companies like that. And so people that wanted to be an entrepreneur several years ago in California, they would just go to a venture capitalist office, right? And people in Korea didn't have that same, entrepreneurs didn't have that same access. And so I think that's a big reason that you had crypto just, once it hit the mainstream in Korea, just really blow up. And I think that caught between China as one extreme and Japan as another, you'll see more and more mainstream acceptance as the large growth in the Japanese market continues, that eventually you kind of have to choose which way to go. And if you're choosing between something that's been incredibly successful in Japan and a more haphazard, sort of ham-fisted regulatory regime from the PBOC, you'll probably choose the example that actually works.
So what's your expectations in Korea for RootProject?
Sorry. You get a political economist start talking about regulation. RootProject has to choose between 3 and 5 pilot cities for year one. And when we first came to Korea, we decided that Seoul made sense as one of the first pilot cities. So it's absolutely front and center for us. We already have partnerships with nonprofit here. We have a great employee and are already actively hiring more. And so I think through some of organizations that in Korea are really focused on changing the way that nonprofits and social enterprises do business, I think that's a very active discussion here. And so we want Seoul to be absolutely front and center in everything we do. And so that includes building an on-the-ground team to start really fighting poverty quickly and efficiently, working with local policymakers, working with leaders in the nonprofit world, and really making Seoul part of the broader dialogue about the interaction of crypto and nonprofits. I should talk a little bit about the Bureau and the fund to give context to that. So over the course of these global travels where I didn't sleep enough for 6 months straight, I met a group of San Francisco entrepreneurs that are very focused on social impact in the blockchain space and are much better connected than I am to venture capitalists in San Francisco. And we decided to come together to start a social impact crypto investment fund. And so through that, through some other large investors, we have a lot of interest on the side of whales and very large investors. And then we have this, I think, organic interaction or organic interest that we get. Chan Mi's right here, and people that really come onto the team on the basis of the idea. And so that we've seen that in reservations for the crowd sale. And so the crowd sale we expect will sell out in under a minute or two. We're aiming for the first 2 blocks to just be done. It's only a $4 million public sale. So currently we have a SAFT round going on, simple agreement for future tokens. Because the social impact crypto hedge fund that I've helped set up may participate in that, we have to be particularly open in our private sales because we don't want people to think that we are kind of self-dealing. So for instance, I am recusing myself from any votes that involve RootProject, and we're letting the SAFT round be open to people in our Telegram group. And so if you want to participate, if you're curious, you should join our Telegram group or join our Kakao Talk group if you want to participate in Korean. So RootProject is building out an ecosystem, a decentralized ecosystem for nonprofits. A big part of that is a crowdfunding platform. You've seen a huge growth in crowdfunding. Almost all of those crowdfunding platforms pursue the same model, and that is you put a project up and then you do the work when you're done. RootProject is different because you put a project up, it's evaluated by the decentralized ecosystem, it's approved, and then when it reaches its funding goal, RootProject itself or a partner nonprofit steps in to do the work, sourcing the labor from populations that are very far below the poverty line. That allows for donations to RootProject to be tax deductible, which in the United States is effectively a 30% subsidy on every donation that you give. More importantly, it allows you as somebody in the community and concerned about the community to come up with a project that improves the community, but then not have to go spend the next 6 months of your life making sure that it gets completed. That model of the combination of an on-the-ground organization with a crowdfunding platform is a fairly simple innovation. You haven't seen it before because it's very hard to scale the on-the-ground organization. So what we do is decentralize a lot of that and create an ecosystem where the cost of information goes from extremely high to extremely low, and the cost of collaboration goes from extremely high to extremely low. And so instead of having to scale our own nonprofit to be a global presence, we can bring in global nonprofit networks and rely on their local expertise to get the job done. So Seoul is the first pilot city that we know for sure. There will be 2 to 3 other American pilot cities, perhaps 4. And so building out the platform beyond just the crowdfunding platform that we already have, that's already helped to raise funds for nonprofits, and really making that ecosystem more robust is our first priority, as well as launching the on-the-ground nonprofits. To do that, we're going to hire somebody who's at the absolute top of the field of nonprofits, somebody with 30, 40 years of experience and true global sets of connections. One benefit to an ICO is that you actually have the money to attract the talent. So it's all about scaling quickly, focusing on partnerships in year 1, and really refining the model that allows our growth as an organization to directly feed into reduced supply and increased demand of Roots tokens. it's interesting. You come into the world of crypto not knowing a lot, like a newborn baby. And we were talking about this on the car ride over. There was maybe a 2-week period where I had an average level of, I went from being a noob to being sort of a typical person, and then people started asking me to be advisors. So the focus is obviously completely on RootProject. I do one of the, I think, skills that I have as an entrepreneur that comes from academia is my ability to know what I don't know. And so whether we hire a very empowered COO or somebody who will actually take the CEO position as I focus on more sort of co-founder responsibilities. We need to have people there that are true experts while I build out my expertise. And then in the crypto space, building out real-world applications and helping social impact companies use blockchain technology is something that I'm now very well positioned to do. We have a global network of investors and friends in Asia, and also being a partner at the Bureau, we have access to a great hub of entrepreneurial talent. So we have a lot of great projects coming out of the Bureau. Constellation and Dispatch are 2 blockchains that in the past couple of weeks raised $40 million in total, more so than that, in literally 2 weeks. So it's a powerful organization that we're a part of, and again, very fortunate to have real friends there, not just colleagues. So I would need to focus on RootProject, but I also want to play a role on outreach to the nonprofit and social impact world and integrating that into crypto. To end extreme poverty by leveling the playing field between for-profit and social good pursuits.